Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your curiosity. With us today in the goddamn room is a true pioneer of women's MMA, former Marine, Bellator flyweight champion, UFC veteran. I mean, this list goes on for a good while. Ladies and gentlemen, Liz Carmouche is in the goddamn room with us today. Liz, thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you for your time. So I wanted to kind of go back a little bit. There's this one patch of your life that I admire a lot, U.S. Navy prior service, but you're a true veteran. Having a military background before MMA, what first got you into fighting even after serving in the Marine Corps?
While I was in, I was always striving to challenge myself and look for something different other than just lifting weights and running. Some people that I'd worked with recommended I get into MMA, just felt like with the level of aggression, the way that I challenged and was always striving for better, that would be something that would be of interest to me. I checked it out. Started trying workouts, trying to do the nutrition diet that I saw in the books, and really just started to get into it and decided that when I got out that it was something I wanted to try and just at least just try out and see where I'd go from there.
That's it. From your military service career, because you have a phenomenal service career in the Marine Corps, what did you carry over from the military into your MMA career?
I would say the biggest thing would be just being able to strive through adversity. And also being able to find success with limited resources. One of the things you have to learn in the Marine Corps is you have to achieve a mission, even when they give you absolutely no tools to be able to achieve it. And so I've been able to find, like, even if I'm driving cross country to go to a training camp and I need to get a workout and I'll just pull over on the side of the road, get something done, keep on going. And I think that that's carried over and helped my career a lot.
That's sick. I was just thinking that because I remember when I was in the Navy, we were doing some type of exercise, and I think my chief was an FMF corpsman, so he had helped the Fleet Marine Forces, and he was used to Marines. And he's like, the thing that kind of pisses me off with you guys complain and you have all the tools in front of you. He's like, if I got 6 Marines and tell them to climb that building with no rope or nothing, they'd get it done. We just kind of looked at him like, that building? He's like, I promise you. And one day he actually did get an old pair of friends of his from the Marine Corps to come over to base. And they did, in fact, climb an entire building between the 6 of them with no equipment. And we were like,
yeah, I see that.
We got to set it up, bro. We got to step this game up. We're way behind if we can't do this. Yeah. How did they even come up with this concept? And they're like, they're teammates. They're all team working. That's, we have shipmate. From the Marine Corps, they have something similar to saying instead of a shipmate. Mm-hmm. But as a division and as a platoon, you guys always seem to have this amazing synergy. Like my brother, who's in the picture behind me, was also a Marine, passed away a few years back. But he loved the Corps. I mean, it was strange to hear him say, I'm excited to go back. We were like, huh? He's like, yeah, I can't wait to go back on the front lines. And we were like, you just went to Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm terrified for you. And you're over here trying to celebrate and party. He tried to go back 2 more times. And they were like, no, it's enough. You're good. And I was like, man, you guys are built different because I can't do it. I was stressed out just fixing rotors. I don't know how the heck y'all are doing it with like a smile and like, yeah, we'll get it done right now. I'm like, oh my God. But you started your MMA career at a time when women's fights weren't as mainstream, and that was like the early like Misha Tate. I think it was Marlos Conan, I believe was her name, and I might be butchering her name. I'm so sorry. I remember watching her fight, and I was like, man, this chick is going after it. And then the first time I saw you fight, I think it may have been either Invicta or WEC. No, I think it was Invicta you had fought in before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fought Invicta.
And you just ragdolled the girl that was in front of you, and I was like, who's this? And they're like, oh, that's Liz Carmouche. And my cousin calls you, and like it's an affectionate thing. Yeah. He makes fun of his Portuguese friends because, they pronounce Carmouche Carmouche. Mm-hmm. So he's like, Liz Carmouche, bro, that's the bomb right there. You don't even know how good she is. Why did you decide to take up fighting in an era where there really wasn't any money in this game?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't in it for the money. I mean, even to this day, for most women, there's very, very few of the 1% that are succeeding. Even only 1% of them can make a living off fighting. So I was never in it for the money. There was no expectation. Like if you did it, it's simply because you were passionate and you wanted to challenge yourself. And I'm always striving to find new challenges and I want to be the best of the best. And what better than finding an individual sport where you can compete against another woman and test yourself. And that's really all I was looking for. I didn't expect sponsors, money, to be famous. That's not any of the stuff I was going for. I just wanted an opportunity to challenge and test myself and compete against another woman who's doing the same.
I think that's sick. But when you start your career, because this is like a really hard thing to do for a living, you got to go in there and fight another human being, and you have to be mentally prepared and emotionally prepared and everything that goes into it. Now that we have the embedded vlogs, we kind of get to see what that's like. We're like, whoa, these guys are cutting weight at what time? They're doing what now? Yeah. And, to a lot of people who've never cut weight, they're like, I can't even imagine. I was like, I've done it several times when I wrestled, and I remember hating it. I remember crying sometimes when I was so frustrated. I was crying, but I was so dry from dehydration, I couldn't even get any tears out. So I was like, man, this is annoying, but my brothers were all wrestlers. So, there's always like you can't complain. We did it too.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you can't. But in those early years, did you have like a mentor? Was there like a fighter that you were looking up to that started helping you with your training?
Yeah, I was with the fight team who everybody had different approaches. Like you had some of the wrestlers who's like, yeah, you just only eat an apple for a week and you'll be fine. I'm like, all right, I don't think that's the right way. And as being one of the only women on the MMA team, there wasn't other women to help guide me. So it was really just kind of watching from a distance and seeing the men and who were exceeding and excelling what they were doing. It's like, okay, well, he did this right. Oh, this person got hospitalized because all they were doing was eating honey for their whole weight cut. And got kidney stones with kidney failure. So it was always just kind of a learning curve and watching people and be like, okay, well, that seemed to work well. They perform well in their fight. This person got sick and got hospitalized. That can't be right. This person, they never complained about their body being injured. They were also in the military. They sauna and they do these things. That person's in great shape. So it was kind of just watching, doing my own research and just following suit. Like if somebody's like, hey, I'm going to go do abs. I'm like, hey, I'll go with you. Hey, I'm going to go do the sauna, and just jumping and just having a team that was willing. The biggest thing with us is they didn't care what your background or who you were. The only thing that mattered was, were you willing to put an effort and just to work your hardest? That's all anybody cared about. So that's all I did, is every day just went in and just worked hard and just tried to see the lessons, both good and bad, for my teammates and try to work on improving upon those.
That's awesome. So you really did that old school, like straight through guts and blood and gore. And we're like, yeah, all right, let's keep doing this shit.
Yeah.
You guys come from that old school like mentality that I think is really lost upon the younger generation. Like the old school fighters that I remember growing up with when I was in the gyms, they were some really intimidating people. I was like, holy crap, you're tougher than most people on earth. I don't ever want to fight with you, man. I might end up on the wrong end of this. And I do vaguely remember that I had a teammate who was a lot older than I was. And he was like, he would really attack you if you didn't do the ladders, which is where they set up the ladders out of the window and then one on top of a tire, and they'd have you go up and down like a jungle gym.
Yeah.
You didn't do the ladders and then you didn't flip the tires over. He'd literally sit there and would judge you from across the room. And it's worse than like being scolded by your parents, because your teammate now knows like, oh, so you're that lazy piece of they don't want to actually do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the instigator in the gym where, like, we do echo bike sprints and things like that. And I'll come over, I'm like, that doesn't sound like you're going that fast. Like, what number you're shooting for? I don't know. I'm like, that's funny. On my like really bad days, I do higher than that. But it's also because I want to see the other people be able to achieve their best and never have that doubt. Like, if you know that you gave everything possible and you face all the worst scenarios within practice with people that care about a positive outcome for you, that when you go in the fight against people that don't want to see a positive outcome for you, but that you've already played every scenario, then you can go in without doubts. So it's a matter of like elevating the people around you to, some days I'm going to be like, oh, what did you do today? Oh, I only did this. So I'm just going to go home and relax. Like, no, you're going to stay and we're going to go for a run. We're going to do this. You're going to come join me in the sauna. And, that's part of being a good teammate. It's just being, like I had the teammates that weren't even necessarily inviting me, where I was just kind of like that little sister tagging along, like, hey, can I do this with you? So I'm kind of like forcing people to be like, hey, come on, you're going to come do this with me and we can all help each other.
That's sick. Wait, were you the person that instigated on Hell Week?
Oh, yeah.
I had a feeling. I was like, there's always that one team that's like, hey, bro, this looks a little too easy for you. Yo, shut up.
Yeah,
I'm trying to survive.
I'm just like going to go to the drill instructors and be like, hey, let's add stuff on. But I was definitely that person where they're like, oh, well, who owes me? Let's go on the quarter deck. And I'll be like, oh, I assume I probably owe you. And to the point where, like, Carmouche, if you come up here one more time. It's like, well, I don't mind getting worked out until they're dying. They're suffering. I'm getting shredded. This isn't going to bother me. You're not going to break me. I'm getting in the best shape of my life. I'll go on the quarter deck. I don't mind. You want to just go for a basic walk, and that's where I'm like, all right, now I'm struggling. I don't like that part.
Oh my God. Crap. Well, now we know if you work out with Liz Carmouche, you better come to work out. There's no excuses and there's no minimal effort. It's not happening. All right. So let's go into something that you're one of only two people in the world can say this. You were part of the first ever women's fight in UFC history against Ronda Rousey. What do you remember about that fight? And like, what's the buildup? What happens? Can you tell us a story of like, you get the call from your manager, like from that point on?
Yeah. I mean, I woke up to missed calls from my manager, from my coach. And I'd had a rule about 9 to 9, like between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Don't text or call. I'm not going to answer it anyway. And everybody kind of knew the rules. So I'm like, all right, I have like 12 missed calls from all these different people, mixed text messages, something's going on. And they had called everybody else to offer a fight against Ronda Rousey. And I was the only one who was willing to say yes, the only one crazy enough to. And I did it without a doubt. Like that was just an opportunity where at that point, it was every woman's dream to be able to fight in the UFC. It didn't matter who was against. It was the opportunity. Like we all wanted to achieve that dream. That was the pinnacle that you could possibly achieve. And so for me, it was no doubts. And I didn't understand what that meant, and the build up with all the media, with flying to go to television networks, radio networks, pictures, video, you name it, everything. And it was a lot, but I think that I also brought out a different side of Ronda, and that I was like, hey, we're both sucking through this. This isn't fun for either of us. So let's just have laughs and have a good time. And I'm going to be annoying and pester you, but I respect what you've done for the sport. I'm certainly not going to be a trash talker and do any of that stuff. And so I think because of that, she had a different respect for me, and we were able to see a different side of her in the media. And then at the actual venue, it was just complete chaos with having movie stars that are coming into your warm-up room that want to take pictures with you. And I'm like, I don't know or care. I just want to get ready for this fight. Having family there when my family had never been in any fights. And then just the electricity from just the enthusiasm of the crowd wanting to see the pinnacle fight was tangible. You could feel it. It's like the hair was standing up on the back of your arms, on the back of your neck, in anticipation of this big fight.
Can't even imagine the stress of it all. But you did come close to securing a submission in that fight, and I will say that became a submission that we kind of like. We knew that once you grabbed that submission, we were like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
When you had it on Ronda, I was like this. Me and my cousin were like, oh my God, I think she's got it. We were smacking each other. We were going back and forth. And he's like, yo, she has it, bro. It's locked. You know it's over. When she's like survived that, I was like, how? My head would have split sideways. Are you nuts? Oh, I can't even imagine what your jaw feels like after being squeezed like that.
6 months, every time she yawned or chewed, she thought about me. And that's feedback
oh
from
my
her,
God.
where she was willing to let her jaw dislocate just to be able to come out the win, which speaks volumes about what she was looking to achieve as well.
Wow. That's...
Yeah.
Well, now I know you and Ronda are on my list of people not to fuck with. I am going to cross the street and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm good. Peace. Yeah. I don't got it. I really don't. But watching this evolution of MMA, for women's MMA especially, what's the biggest change you've seen from when you started in the game and then now when you're...
There's been so many amazing changes. I mean, for one, if you watch, there was 135 and there was 145. That was it for the weight classes. You didn't see anything outside of that, really. And if you did, nobody really knew about it. It was kind of like a unspoken other weight classes. And then for the most part, the exception of a few fighters at 145, that 145 division wasn't talented. The heavier weight classes usually meant slow, sloppy, not a great representation of technique. And that is not the case today. Now you could see like PFL had a 155 women's division, and they were super talented, really exciting. We have 45, 25, 15, you name it. And all the women are showcasing more than ever the skill set that MMA has to offer to the whole world and are headlining on a regular basis. That's completely different from going from like women are maybe on the undercard and nobody really cares to headlining the cards and everybody's excited to see them.
I think the other thing too, we're speaking of skill sets too. I think my family, at least, we actually prefer to watch the women's fights now more than ever. We will watch the women's fights more than the guys' fights. We'll watch the guys. We're like, oh, he took a takedown. He got on the top, transition, whatever. When the girls fight, we're like, oh, this is going to be good. You see the vibe she came in with? Yeah, oh, this is going to be good. So we'll watch those fights now. My wife, who doesn't really like, she's not into MMA like that. She will hear me going, oh, and screaming with my brother in the living room, and she'll come in, and she's like, the girls fighting? Yeah. Whoa, she is wrecking her. And I'm like, no, but it's two-sided. Watch this. And then next thing you know, the other girl gets hurt. Then they're back and forth. Yeah. It's a dogfight now. It seems like the women's divisions have put on the better shows lately. I mean, for me, I've watched the women's fights. Outside of like the Rocky Pennington fight, I think all of them have been better on the cards. Mm-hmm. That fight with Rocky where she won the title, it was boring, but I was like, it's a methodical approach to win a world title. I kind of get where she's coming from. It's evaded her so many times. Yep. You kind of have to go out there and put it all out there. But like you said, now, who the hell is trying to avoid watching the women's fights? Now we are all like, shoot, what is about that? What'd she say? She said, what about? Oh, I can't wait to see what she does to her because you know she's going to take it personally. Yep. But You had a fight against Valentina Shevchenko, I believe 2 of them.
Mhm.
What was it like preparing for someone like a Valentina Shevchenko rather than a Ronda Rousey?
Well, for Ronda Rousey, I think we all knew at that time that really she, at least when I fought her, she was kind of one-dimensional. She really was just known for her judo throws and then being able to submit with armbar, and it was very limited. And at that point, that's all she had won by. So in one sense, it was very easy to prepare, but also she'd been doing judo since she was out of the womb, right? So that's also very difficult to prepare for when like your mom is like, hey, wake up, defend this armbar. And I was like, man, I've only started doing MMA just a few years ago, and I'm trying to catch up to somebody that's doing it out the womb. Like, I don't really stand that much of a chance. Whereas Shevchenko is a well-rounded fighter. So really you have to, she's known most, of course, for being such a technician when it comes to stand for striking and for having been a Muay Thai world champion. But the reality is she's also highly successful at judo in particular and being on the ground. So that's a much more well-rounded game to have to prepare for it. It's not like you're just thinking about 3 things that really are the limitations for which you have to restrict yourself to try not to get caught with. Is you have to improve your entire game. So it's very, very different. And then also, like I said, with Ronda, we were both experiencing something that was new and trying to figure out and get through that whole realm and doing it together, right? And then it's also being like, hey, this is cool. Whereas Shevchenko has no interest in communicating and talking. So it wasn't like there was going to be a rapport built leading up to any of those fights. And the first one, I wasn't even supposed to fight her. I showed up for weigh-ins and they had changed it. It was supposed to be her sister and flipped it. And so that was a surprise there, at least the second time I knew I was fighting.
Yeah, Antonina Shevchenko. I had forgotten that she was, I don't even think she's in the UFC anymore, but I do remember her being very talented and very good as well. So you prepared for one Shevchenko and then got the other. Do you remember how soon that was? Was that like within the same week or the day of weigh-ins?
It was the day before weigh-ins.
Whoa, that's really short notice.
We'd implicitly said, because their sister didn't have it as an extensive background like Muay Thai and Judo like Valentina had. And Valentina's a southpaw, her sister is not. And so at that time, like I had been training for a few months and her sister, like, okay, was also 2-0 or 3-0, whatever the record was. We were very similar, right? She competed in boxing, but at least we felt like it was fair. It wasn't like Valentina, who had 170 fights in Muay Thai and then was 8-0 as a pro MMA fighter or whatever her record was, where my coach is like, yeah, she's not ready for that. And they're like, sorry, we must have messed up. You guys didn't mess up. You tried to pull one over. And you knew that once you flew me out, I was there to fight. Everybody knew, like I had very limited fighting, but we made it very clear. And that happened from the very first fight that I'm going to fight no matter what, right? It doesn't take much. And we're like, all right, well, we'll give you some per diem so you can pay for extra groceries. And it's like, all right, cool. Like I was going to say yes anyway, but my coach is like, hold on, will you try and like work this a little bit? Like, yeah, we'll throw in a little bit extra cash for you. And I think they were supposed to give vouchers or something for the hotel, and they didn't even do that. And yeah, but the first fight to the second fight, very different. We both grew a lot in between there and had a lot of different experiences going.
That's sick. I mean, I don't like that she did that. That was a little underhanded. But
I don't even know that she did. The promoter and the organization did. They were super sketchy.
Yeah, they were the ones that knew. They knew behind closed doors what was going on. But with that, I've heard this is a common tale I've heard, that fighters kind of get to know their opponents really, really closely. They may not be friends, but you spend so much time with them that you like after a while you kind of pick up the vibe, you know what the energy is. Chael Sonnen had pointed this out, that Valentina, for whatever reason, does this like really nice shtick that she kind of sounds like a school teacher, that she's like talking to you in the kindergarten and in 3rd grade. And he's like, I don't know why she does that, because it doesn't sell pay-per-views, first of all. Second of all, no one believes that shit. You have tattoos everywhere. You beat the crap out of people for a living. And, there's a few stories behind closed doors that she could use to maximize her profit. Did you ever get the vibe from her that, like, that little school teacher act is kind of exactly what it is, an act?
I never got to see that side of her. The side I saw was exactly the person that you see in the cage. There was so much animosity over the outcome for the first fight because I caught her with an up kick. And it split her eye, and she felt like she could have continued on the fight, but it kept bleeding into her eyes. So they stopped it. She couldn't answer into the bell. So she had so much resentment coming into that fight that I never got to see that nice side of her. There was only like, no, she didn't win that fight. I'm just going to beat her. It was like, oh, all right, well. So I didn't get that experience, but yeah, I've heard some things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I've heard the same thing too, and it's funny when Chael says it, because it's like, all right, at this point, everyone kind of knows.
Yeah.
But I had heard it from 1 or 2 people in Cali, and I was like, you trained with her before? And he's like, yeah, she's a great training partner. I was like, she kind of comes off like, I don't know, like Miss Rachel kind of vibes. And he's like, yeah, no, that is not who the hell she is. Yeah. Behind closed doors, woman is dangerous. She is not the kind of person you want to piss off. I was like, oh, okay, well, now I know. We will not be pissing off the bullet. Good choice. So post UFC, you went on this incredible run into Bellator, became the flyweight champ. How did that moment compare to all the other milestones of your career? Because you've done so much in so little time, I feel.
Bellator was a lot of fun, and being able to get to that moment of finally achieving the belt, feeling like I'd had all these close chances, it was right there in my grasp, and then, I just wasn't able to achieve it. And finally having done it, but at the same time, like I get there and it was done under doubts, and to come out of it, and as I'm being walked out post-conference, I'm holding the belt, I'm excited, my corners are all excited. They're like, hey, just to warn you going into this press conference, not everybody leaves that you won that fight, and they want to do a rematch. Just want to give you a heads up. I'm like, what? Like, I guess I don't get to enjoy this belt. And so, like, coming out of it, like, I wanted to have the excitement and be on cloud nine, but I didn't have that opportunity because immediately I'm coming out with her threatening to sue and wanting to overturn the decision, doing all this crazy nonsense. And I'm like, well, that wasn't what I expected to come out of this. But that also fueled me that second time with a rematch with her to make sure she got her immediate rematch. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to make sure that there's no ref stepping in. She's going to have to stop this. Whether she's tapping because I'm breaking her face, which is what I wanted to do. Like, my intent was when I got on top of her was to get in the triangle and to break her face in so that there were no doubts when she's going to the ER and having emergency surgery that we all know what happened there without any shadow of a doubt. Like, no, don't stop this time when I elbow her. Her face will be broken. Let her tap or she's completely unconscious. But let's not have any doubts this time. And didn't really get that opportunity. She knew because I made it clear. I'm like, I want to break her face. And she knew when I got on top of her that that's where it was headed. So I got to take the arm at least and pull it out of the shoulder and try and break it. And still got her to tap. And that was what mattered to me. And that was the satisfaction I needed to both in my head and having hers for us to both know that I'm the one that deserved that belt. And it should have been mine.
Damn. All right. Well, if Liz Carmouche do not say some stupid shit. Because then she's going to beat you even worse. So now the second warning, y'all got it. Don't fuck around. Damn, I can't believe she threatened to sue. What the hell? What kind of nonsense is that? If you lose, you lose. You pick up your marbles and you go home. You try it again later. Yep. At least that's what I've heard. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I was cracking up. I was like, oh shit. All right. Well, now we know where that lies. But to be the champion and to defeat the same contender that many times, how satisfying was that for you?
The second time was satisfying. To have to fight her again was not. Simply in the sense that I'm like, man, we've already, this chapter has been closed. The first time people want to have their doubts, they felt like it was stopped early, which when you stop moving and just look up to the sky and don't do anything to protect yourself, I don't know how that stopped early, but fine. Okay, second time, I made very sure that you tapped without any doubt in anybody's mind, and now to have to face you a third time. But I feel like at least in that, we both had the recognition at the end of the fight that there was no point where she dominated, not a single moment. So at least but in my mind, I'm like, great. I don't win decisions very often. It doesn't matter if I was dominating the whole thing. It usually doesn't go in my favor. And of all people, this is the person, I was trying to stop that fight at every turn, but to at least come out of it without her being like, congratulations. I'm like, okay, so finally I got something that says that she acknowledged it too. So I did at least have that satisfaction. But again, I wanted to close that fight out with a stoppage and not have to go to decision. Because in my mind, indecision is a doubt. Regardless if on the scorecard, it's 100-2. It doesn't matter, right? I like having that closure to know that they tap, they go to sleep, something snapped out. That you don't have to doubt anything. You know how.
Well, now we have more reason to watch your next fight. Because now we know what you're going for. Because I had always asked that too. So she always finishes her fights, but you do have a very your demeanor is so calm when you're fighting that we can't really tell if you're pissed off or not. You look cold as ice. You're very calculated. You kind of wait it out, and then once you get your moment, you jump for it. But it's typically you're so reserved in there that I'm like, I don't even think Liz is phased by this person. I don't really think of a fuck. But to hear that that's what you were thinking, you fought Juliana, I'm like, oh, okay. So we can piss her off. Let's not do that. Let's stay friendly. Let's be nice because you don't want that. But at this stage in your career, what's keeping you motivated to continue to compete at such a high level?
It's still challenging. I love going to the gym every day. I love being able to find new aspects of myself to see what I'm capable of, what my limitations are, what my weaknesses are. And I have a bucket list of finishes that I want to be able to pull off in the fight. And I want to check off that bucket list and get all those finishes. And at the end of that, I think maybe then I can hang up those gloves, but there's still a lot of cool finishes that I want to be able to pull off that I work on all the time that I think will look really badass in the cage. So until those are done, I don't think I can shut that door yet.
Which is so sick, because I was going to ask you, like, as a pioneer, there's really nothing else to do except maybe win one more title and then call it a career, but that's it. You've done everything. Liz, you fought in the biggest organizations. You've beat the shit out of some of the best fighters in the world. You definitely go down as a top 10 all-time great in women's MMA. Like, it's just that's not a debatable one. Even my friends who were talking to me today, I was like, do you think that Liz Carmouche should be? And all of them unanimously like, yeah, top 10 all time, period. This isn't up for discussion. She fought all the tough people. She didn't avoid anybody. There isn't anybody in the top 5 in the world in any weight class that could be like, oh, I would fight Liz Carmouche tomorrow. No, you wouldn't. You'd fucking turn your head and go, wait, hold on. Do I have to now? Can I get some time? You'd look for an out. At this point in your career, do you ever feel like the recognition as a pioneer, is it ever too much, or do you feel kind of happy that, like, all right, I've got that badge, it's in my token bag, and like, cool?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the part where it is cool to say, because when I started off in MMA, most people didn't follow women MMA. They didn't know they couldn't name a female MMA fighter. And then it finally came to a point, and there was only one name at that time that people knew, and it was Gina Carano. Like people who were like, yeah, I know who Gina Carano is, but it was for all the different reasons. It wasn't because she was a super talented fighter. It's because everybody thought she was hot. And then finally, like, Chris Cyborg comes around, and then people are like, well, but she looks like a man. It's like, first of all, she's a super nice person, and she's tough as hell. She's really talented. So again, it was for all the wrong reasons and why people knew about women's MMA. But outside of those two, people didn't really know female fighters. So to then come across and be that person where I have people coming up to me and they're like, hey, you're in our history books, or we know who you are. That's insane to me, because when I started off, I wasn't going for fame. I just wanted to challenge myself. I just wanted an opportunity to be in a sport where I could give 100% effort and see how that came out. Whereas before I was in sports, I'm like, cool, I'm giving 110% effort, but I'm on a losing team. And it's a team sport. So no matter how hard I work, I can't play every position and win this game. And I finally had something where I'm like, if I mess up and I decide to slack a few days out of the week or a week of training, it's going to be reflected. I love that I can give everything. And you get to see how that transfers into the cage.
That's awesome. And speaking of Chris Cyborg, I was going to say, I got to shout out Sarah, one of our good friends, my boy Liz's wife. We do another podcast together, but she is obsessed with Chris Cyborg, Gina Carano. She loves you. She loves Ronda. She loves women's MMA so much. And sometimes she'll talk about certain fighters, and a lot of the guys in our group don't know who those fighters are. And they're like, who's Marlos Conan? And I was like, dude, she's one of the early pioneers, bro. That's one of the first bad broads in the world. That was Gina Carano's kryptonite for a little bit, we thought. And then Gina fought her, and then it didn't go her way. But we thought sick. But yeah, she loves all the original fighters from the Invicta era of like that cage, I believe it's Cage Wars. And then, no, it's King of the Cage.
Strikeforce.
King of the Cage had back in the day had another event, and I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
and there was Strikeforce.
The biggest one for women was Strikeforce. That was our UFC. And then after that, Zuffa bought out Strikeforce. And so everybody was kind of in this weird interim of not knowing what was going to be going on. Shannon Knapp, we were fortunate enough to she started Invicta. And Zuffa allowed us to fight for Invicta while they were trying to figure out what was going to happen with UFC.
Well, shout out to Shannon for doing that, because she's still part of Invicta, and Invicta's still growing. We know that there's that trail, but now looking at it, it's kind of strange because now we've got people from across the pond coming in, a lot of female fighters from across the pond. Molly McCann just retired, but they were talking last night when we were watching the fights, and my boys were like, I don't know where Molly McCann started her career. And I was like, oh, dude, you got to go watch. In the UK, they have one. It's called Cage Wars.
Yep.
Or Cage Warriors, one of the two. And I was like, she had fought there plenty of times. Patty Pimblett. There's a lot of those guys started in that part of the pond, but there's a lot of female fighters over there that if you watch those fights, you're going to be like, oh, she's going to go in the UFC and crush people.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want nothing to do with that. So you guys pioneer and start this whole movement where now there really wasn't a reason for men not to watch the women's fight. There just was too many amazing, talented women annihilating each other on public television. And we were like, oh, these chicks can scrap. We need to get an autograph. I need a picture. I don't even care if the shirt is pink. I'm getting the shirt, bro. Like, let's buy the shirt. So to see that growth is just fucking awesome, especially as a fan. I'm a huge fan, and so it's fucking amazing, surreal. I was telling my friends that I was going to be talking to you this weekend. No one believed me. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. I was like, I'm telling you, I'm going to be talking to Liz Carmouche, and two of them freaked out. They're like, bro, if you really talk to Liz Carmouche, like, tell us that you're talking to her. Like, just take a picture. Let us know that it's real. So it's awesome to have you here. I really appreciate you for that. But you fought some of the best fighters in the world. Who out of all of those people do you remember being the toughest opponent? Who do you remember going, God damn it, this SOB?
Honestly, to be completely transparent, all my opponents, it was more me doubting them, right? It was thinking about their strengths, their weaknesses, and not going in there and putting on my best performance. Like I can remember Sarah Coffin at the time was the champion. And that was probably, I'd say to this day, one of my worst performances. And it was because right before the cage door closed, my coach was like, man, I'm not sure how you're going to win this one. I was like, wait, what? And then he locks the door and I'm like, oh, okay. And I broke my nose 2 weeks before that. So she hits me in my nose. And of course, you're not allowed to spit out the blood, but the clots are just like the blood's pouring and filling my mouth. I just want to spit out the clots, but I can't do that because I could get in trouble for that. So I'm like, how am I supposed to breathe when it's just dripping down my throat? And so I'm just like, every time my head is down, I'm trying to spit out the blood. So you can just see like a trail of me trying to take her down and all the blood going through it. So I think that was probably just the most difficult one because I didn't have doubt until that moment and I didn't know how to overcome that. And then also because like, I'm like, okay, well, what do people normally do with this type of nosebleed so they don't get in trouble? Like, it's not like I have a rash guard. It's like when it happens in practice, I just blow my nose and spit on blood to my rash guard so I don't get on my training partners. This is not a big deal. And I've been a nosebleeder since I was a little kid. It's just, I'm used to it. It's not a big deal. But for fight fans and people watching, they're like, oh, her nose. Like, no, it's always like this. This isn't a big deal. Like, my nose gets broken. It's fine. Whatever. It's second nature at this point. But that was probably just one of the toughest ones because it's not like the doubts had been popping up throughout the camp. Right. It was that moment happened right as I walked in and I didn't know how to push past that and to be able to get in the right mindset to put on the performance I needed. So I put myself in positions that I wouldn't normally that made the fight more difficult than it had to be.
We did not know that, by the way, about the nose and especially about how the hell, coach, what the hell was going on that day? If my coach said that, if Adam turned to me and was like, I don't know how you're going to win this one, bro, I think the immediate panic would set in and I'd be like, what the fuck did he just say? Did you just say that now? Are you serious? Coach, what the fuck? I would have been mad as a sumbitch, but then, maybe I would have taken that on my opponent. Might have helped me. But no, I can't imagine. I think I'd have a stroke, like a small one. But like a split-second stroke, you'd be like, did you just say this shit as I'm in here? Like, it's kind of late to say that shit.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like, it's a little late for that.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But you know what? You're tough as balls. We knew you were going to be, like, going to go through it. But I had always wondered, I was like, man, was it Ronda? Was it because Valentina's skill set? But to hear that makes a lot of sense. Because we do hear that the psychological part of fighting is a lot more difficult than the physical part.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the psychology, I kind of get it. Like, the you versus you thing is really strong. Because the biggest opponent you have is yourself.
Exactly.
If you don't believe it, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, and I mean, up until that point, I was that Pitbull. We were like, go in there, like, defend your house, kill her. Okay, I just got out of the Marine Corps, so I just go in and do what I'm told. But if you put, like, that little doubt, then I'm like, but I just go in on the crazy Pitbull that just runs forward without consideration for my self-preservation. Like, what are you doing now? And the same thing, like, when I fought Shevchenko the second time, I was in this weird place where I was being encouraged by my coaches to cross-train and get challenges outside of her gym because I wasn't finding it in her gym. But then when I did that, I got a whole bunch of backlash from doing that from those same exact coaches. And so I have here I am with the coach that's helping me evolve and grow. And then with the coaches of the past, and they're giving me two conflicting things. And where I feel like the information that's suited best for me is from that coach is trying to push me forward and not hold me back. But I also feel like I had a debt that was owed to my other coaches and I didn't want to be disloyal to them. And as a result, it was like this weird conflict that ended up transpiring into the fight, and also just being a horrible performance because I'm in this weird limbo between them.
That part makes sense. That's really difficult for a lot of young fighters. Have that same issue. A lot of the guys on my team that are younger, they're like, oh, I don't want to go train at that gym because, Adam might say and Mike might say. And I was like, let me explain something really, really clear to you. You were in the one gym where if you told Mike and Adam that you want to try something with someone else because you want to see if it helps you improve your game, they're going to let you know what those guys are great at. They're even going to list it out for you and be like, yeah, when you go there, tell them to teach you this shit. This is great. And then bring it back here.
Yeah.
And bring it back here and we'll see how we can implement it for everybody else.
Exactly. And that's what good coaches do. And that's the coaches that I have now. That's where I'm like, like we're starting off and they're like, hey, there's a seminar. You guys should all go check it out. And I'm like, did you just tell us that you want us to go to a seminar with another coach at a different gym? They're like, yeah, you have an opportunity here. Go check out these pieces. We're going to bring in people. And we're like, wait, you guys are actually going to do that? We're allowed to, not only are you allowed to, we encourage it. Go cross train, go try new things, see if it fits. They're like, if we're not a fit for you, if we're not challenging you, by all means, go seek it out. The only thing we care about is what's best for you as a fighter. And if that's not us, then sad to see you go, but do what's best for you. And I'm like, all right, these are the coaches for me. This makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, there's a loyalty that goes beyond when you have a coach that's like, no, we want you first. Then you can worry about us later. We will take care of that. You were just talking about cross training, but what is a typical training camp look like for you these days? Because I've seen you do a lot of recovery posts and you have a really strong schedule. You haven't changed your schedule that much, in my opinion, based on how hard you train.
Yeah.
But have you done things a little differently now, this part of your career that you've learned that you're like, you know what? I used to do this shit way too long. I don't need to do that anymore. I can cut that. But this I definitely need, and this is definitely better.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, in the beginning, like I said, I was with different coaches and it was that old school, knees mentality to MMA, right? So we spar every single day, sometimes twice a day, the harder, the better. And it doesn't matter what weight class you go with. And there's a reason there's a separation of weight classes, for one. And me going with the heavyweight and going at 80% is really stupid and it's caused injuries and head trauma that was unnecessary. So that I've definitely stopped. Sparring, I do tech sparring, but I don't really do hard sparring. It's like, why fight in the gym? I'm getting paid to fight. I'm preserving and I'm holding out because I want to perform the best possible on that night. Why would I take fights in here and risk getting injured when there's no payday and there's no benefit, and that may prevent me from getting in the cage in a few months? There's no point to that. So there's definitely a lot more tech sparring. It's a lot more experiencing and in situationals, a lot more emphasis on recovery. I didn't have the money nor the time to be able to do recovery before. And now I really prioritize. So I'm like, yeah, I think I was wrong and the knots weren't holding me together, but I need the massage to actually fix my body and stuff. And my thought then too was I'll sleep and I'm dead. I'm like, no, you need sleep. Let's get some sleep in here. You'll probably feel better and be in a better headspace. So there are definitely a lot of things that changed over the years. When I first had started moving down from 135 to 125, I didn't know how to make that change. So my mind was like, all right, well, if I train for 6 hours a day to make 135, then I've got to train for 9 to 12 to be able to make 125. And then, of course, it's like, yeah, this isn't going to last very long. This is very healthy. So I've changed that too and tried to do things to again, things that I was researching and finding where I knew, for the up and coming fighters, hey guys, you should do this and this. Or but you don't do that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm different. Don't worry about me. Where I'm like, hey, make sure you get your recovery. Make sure you're not training 9 to 12 hours a day. But moderate your schedule. Have a low and a high day for training and things like that. But then I'm like, but I don't follow that advice. Now I'm actually following that advice and making sure I do things correctly. When in putting the ego aside, even if I'll see somebody who's a heavyweight, I'm like, man, he just looks like he's a lot of fun. I'm like, do not spar the heavyweight. Don't. It's stupid. There's no benefit. Don't do it. So it's being able to say no, and that's been a big thing. Is in the past, if it's rolling, it's sparring, whatever, and they come up to me hey, do you want to go, Liz? I'm looking at them how much do you weigh right now? Yeah, I'm 135. Why would I possibly do that? Now I'm like, no, what? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They're like, yeah, but I'll benefit from you. I'm like, but I won't benefit from training with you. No, I'm not going to do that. So that's been a huge lesson that I've modified and incorporated into who I am now, and being able to just be smarter about things and think about what I'm working towards. And what I'm always working towards is fight night. And I have to do everything possible to show up and arrive in my best form on that night. And so when I do everything, it's like, is this going to benefit me or take from my possibility that night? And if it's going to take from me, then I've got to stay on it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take your advice because I am a moron in training rooms sometimes. Sometimes I text sparring. I do very light because I'm like, you know what? I don't get paid to beat people up, but I sure as hell don't want to go to work on Monday with a shiner. It's just not a good. It's not a good look. Your insurance guy has a big shiner on. You probably not gonna buy insurance from him. You're like, hey buddy, you take your own advice there. But I will take your advice on rolling with the heavyweights. I do roll with most of the bigger guys because everyone avoids them, and I'm like, I know this is gonna hurt, but maybe I beat him up. Now that happens about every 6 times I try. Every 6 times I'm like, I got this. And then they're on top of me and I'm like, I can't breathe. My ribs. Get off me, you big bastard. And now I'm like, no, I think that's not a good idea. I'll roll with one heavyweight every couple weeks. It's because you're like you said, the weight classes exist for a reason. I'm short. I'm not tall. I'm heavy, but I'm not tall. Yeah, if you're 225 and you're 5'8", it hurts a little bit. It's a little different. My back don't bend a certain way no more. I can't do that. I try to shoot a takedown. I feel like my daughter's like putting her foot in my back. Like, nope, not doing that. I won't do that anymore. Now I rely on judo just because of that. I'm like, I am not bending my back this way. But nice to, I got a little wisdom from you. I got to take that into mind. Like, I should think this through. It may hurt you in the long run. But you're known for being extremely well-rounded. Is there any aspect of your game that you've been focusing on improving lately that you're like, I really want to get nice at this specific part of my game?
No, just for me, because I came into the sport and I didn't have a combat sports background. It's not like I grew up doing wrestling, judo, or anything like that. So when I got into it, I was trying to play catch up to my peers and trying to, I'm like, man, I have to do all these classes every day, all day. So I don't try and concentrate on like, wow, I prefer striking over jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu over striking. So I'm going to concentrate more on that. There's that part of me that knows like, yes, of course, I could focus on one. And this part of my game isn't going to completely dissolve and revert back to being a day one. But there's the other part of my brain goes, but like, do you really want to show up with the white belt version of a striker or the white belt version of jiu-jitsu because you took some time off concentrating on something else? So for me, I'm just trying to grow in every part. And it's like, okay, well, if I notice in striking that right now my footwork is trash, then I will focus more on striking on my footwork. If I notice in jiu-jitsu that my guard is trash, then I'm going to focus on that. So, but I don't take from any of them. I try and focus my energy equally into them.
That's sick. With training, when you're in the training room, do you record your training and then look back at it like footage, or do you do the logbook? Because I've noticed a lot of guys do the logbooks in my gym.
Yeah, it's funny because I got asked this, and to be honest, no, I don't do either. I'm one of those people. Yeah, it's just in my head. Like one of my coaches had asked, and he's like, how do you store it? And I'm like, I can tell you every single class from the past month and what we did in that class. Like, there's just something in my brain. I can't tell you anything else going on the rest of my life, but I can tell you what happens in the confines of the gym and what I did wrong, what I need to work on, what the technique was.
Crap. Okay, now I'm more impressed. I'm already impressed. Now I'm extremely impressed. I can't do that shit. They'll be like, what moves did you hit today? And I'll be like, I hit an armbar. I hit an Elvis armbar. I think I hit an Elvis armbar. I can't recall. So that's sick because we have a lot of training partners that they'll go on the side and they'll start writing down. They write down what they were able to hit in which rounds, and then they'll write down what they got hit with that they weren't able to counter in time.
Yeah, I tried doing like notes, especially when I was learning new stuff where I felt like it was difficult, but also a lot of fun and things I wanted to make sure that I came back to and was able to touch upon. And then every time I'd look back at my notes, I'm like, what am I possibly saying? This doesn't make any sense. Like, I still have notes where I'm like, I know there was great information there, but I have no idea what any of this means. And then where I want to like fast forward through video and I just end up seeing something shiny and get distracted. So I'm like, okay, I've just got to mentally be present at all times and make sure. And I mean, that's the biggest thing is I just don't, if I zone out during class, I know I'll come back to and be like, uh-oh, yeah, you messed up today. Like, you didn't catch that technique. So I try and be as present as possible and just mentally log everything.
Hey, look, whatever works for you. That's ultimately what happens. I don't know how you do it, but God bless you because you got a great memory for that. Outside of fighting, because it is your career and it is something you're passionate about, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. Are there any passions or hobbies that people might not know about you?
Well, I think I share a lot of the stuff that I do. I mean, recently I've been trying to do drums and I haven't told people that. I love music. I'm not good at music. Like at no point, they're electric drums because the last thing I want is for anybody around me to have to suffer through that learning curve. The same thing. If I'm singing, I'm doing it very quietly because I know, like, I'm not the person that should ever go to karaoke unless you want to hospitalize everybody there because of bleeding out of their burst eardrums. So I know that about myself. So it's like, this is just my passion project. It's something I enjoy doing, and it's only for me, and I will never share it with anyone, not even my wife. Like, she's like, I want to hear it. I'm like, that's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not. I will suffer on my own and do this, and it's just for me.
So we'll never get Liz Carmouche on Drumeo trying to do a song?
Absolutely.
We were looking forward to it. But that's sick. I'm sorry. That's funny. At this point in your career, since you have the experience, you've gone through all this stuff in the past, you understand the business of MMA too. You have a really, really good understanding of the dichotomy of this business. You've advocated for fighter pay in the past and opportunities, and I think that's awesome. What's the one thing about the sport you desperately hope changes in the future for the next generation?
Everything. Everything. I mean, the reality is, it's true. Right now, MMA is not a sport. MMA is, you're an independent contractor, you're put in there, and you're replaceable at any moment. There's no guarantees for tomorrow, right? The sports that you see is NFL, NBA, it's professional sport leagues where their future are guaranteed to be supported and taken care of. MMA is not that. MMA is just entertainment, and that's all that it is. And just like with somebody in showbiz, they could be here tomorrow and not, right? It's not unionized. There's no guarantees. I want that to change. I want to see the future of people where they enter into the sport where, just like in professional sport leagues, where they're guaranteed a future and they're taken care of and their long-term benefits are what they're looking out for. I want that MMA too. What's the point of us showcasing and put our bodies on the line if we're also getting a phone call 2 weeks later like, hey, I know that that's broken and you're potentially having surgery, but either take this fight or you get cut. Like, that doesn't happen in team sports, right? And so that's a big thing that I would love to see change, is the fighters taking care of for the well-being of their futures.
Yeah, I can see that the contract thing has been the biggest dispute. I had said, I think a few weeks ago, talking back to a promoter here in New York, awesome promoter, takes care of his fighters, love them. And I asked him that too. I was like, what would be so different for you in your opinion about contracts? He's like, I wish fighters understood their contract better. They get the manager talks to us, and if you have a good manager, it's great. But not all managers are good. And he's like, so some of them want to advocate on your behalf, but not in the way that you want them to represent you. That's where we kind of get the disconnect. That's what happens to a lot of them. And I was like, man, I wish that like an Eric Silva or one of those guys that used to do those contracts in the UFC would teach a class on that to these young fighters and be like, hey, this is what a contract looks like. This is what it's saying from A to B. And this is what you have to understand about it. You got to make it work for you. But, hopefully that's something for the future. I don't know that this generation is going to get it, but maybe the next one will. Yeah. But we're not at the end of your career yet. We still got a ways to go. But toward the end of your career, have you ever thought about what life after MMA will be like? Will you do like commentating? Will you be coaching? Anything else in your life that you want to do?
Yeah, I've talked to the PFL about the possibility of commentating later on. I have commentated before, and I did a lot of research into that role, and I did have that responsibility. So I know it's something I would take seriously, and I would want to do a different viewpoint, because so often you see, and it's kind of like copy and paste, and people haven't really done the research into the fighters and learning new things. And I want to bring out a different part of that. So I think that would be great in the future. I love teaching and traveling and doing seminars, so also the opportunity to do that. My wife and I have talked about potentially opening our own gym, but I did do that in San Diego, and I got burnt so badly with that I'm not sure that I want to do that again. And with commentating and with seminars, it gives you the freedom to travel. And I love that chance to just be able to be like, hey, family, like, we have a chance to go here. We got invited. Let's go. And not be tied where anything's going to lose out because I'm not there to run it.
That makes perfect sense. I'm sorry about the gym. That sucks. That's really sad. I'm sorry about that you had to go through that entire process only to get burned through it, because I've heard the similar things from other fighters in the UFC too, like Nick and Nate Diaz. I think I talked about that one point, that they were going to do this big thing. I think Nick got burned, and it just kind of soured it for him. And I was like, man, that sucks, because that's really a brilliant mind. And just like you, someone who knows this game top to bottom, does not miss a point. But something that I think we can definitely share at this time, if you could go back and talk to yourself when you first started your career, what advice would you have given the young Liz Carmouche coming into the sport?
To advocate for myself more. The biggest thing was, even at the point where I needed to step away from the coaching staff and step away from my gym, I was also in a position where that was also my full-time job. So if I had done that earlier in my career, I would not have had a job to come back to, right? So even if I told myself like, hey, you should go start checking out other gyms immediately, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, because those opportunities came because I did actually have a full-time job and I could pay my bills and do all those things. If I just pursued fighting and just followed coaches, I wouldn't have had the money because it doesn't pay well enough to do that, to be able to do that. So it honestly would have cost me my career, my fight career too, because I would have been living on the streets, living out of my car. But I think doing more research into understanding what I needed to be the best version of myself and being able to be more responsible about that and doing more research on that, I think I would have liked to have told myself that earlier so that I could have done things better to take care of my body.
Wow. All right. So to the young fighters watching, this is what you need to learn. This is what you need to take down. Take the notes. Speaking of commentating, because this kind of came out of my mind randomly, it's been a meme about John Anik. He always has a strange anecdote about a fighter. He's like, he's currently got 2 kids with 3 baby mamas, and the math doesn't math. But you're like, what happened? Do you ever think that you would maybe not do that, but do you ever think you would try to put something quirky in for one of the fighters if you ever commentated on them?
Yeah, especially because, like I said, I want to find out other information about them. People don't realize how much I obsess about food during fight camps, which I know is a lot of fighters. But I seriously, just all I do is just nonstop. I'm not doing cardio on an echo bike, and I'm just looking at reels of food, right? Obsessing about what potential things I'm going to make and eat, and then just hoarding food that I ultimately don't end up eating because, especially with PFL, I'm on to another fight. So I'd love to learn those other quirks about fighters and be able to throw in those little tidbits of information that people don't.
All right, cool. I thought you would do something similar. I was like, I don't know, should we go? I mean, clearly no one can do the John Anik thing. It's just too much. I don't know how this guy gets this info. Man, who is he digging? Investigating through corporate files we don't know about? Last question before I let you go, and thank you for your time. You've been really gracious with it. What's next for Liz Carmouche? Are any fights? Are there any projects the fans should be looking out for?
Yeah, I'm in the PFL tournament, and so my next fight will be in Orlando, Florida, April 11th. And everything goes right, single elimination. We go right into June for another fight, August after that, to get that belt and go home with a PFL championship belt.
Okay, so one more belt. She's running for it. We know she's coming for that belt. That's just how she is. But ladies and gentlemen, Liz Carmouche is with us in the goddamn room. She's been super awesome. We really appreciate you. Liz, we're going to make sure that we link your Instagram in the bio. Anything else that's coming up or anything else you want to let the fans know about?
No, just be on the lookout. Like I said, for PFL, I'm looking for those bucket list finishes. I want to come out, showcase everything that I have, striking, jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, all of it. So be on the lookout because I gotta get those check marks.
Damn, she was not playing with this one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your curiosity. Again, with us in the goddamn room was Liz Carmouche. This is the goddamn podcast. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep your peace.